सॉर्ट ना
सेम ही चीज़ हीरल को डाउनलोड सेम ही चीज़ ही वांटेड टू हीरल
वो हिरल
जो मैंने अभी किया ना
हाँ
oh
we are live.
इसका she wanted to know
We are live. Hello guys, we are live on Wolf Bear and Banter and we have Neeraj who is not missing today but Hersh is there. He's back from his
छुट्टी
health
bunk I bunked
खांसी थी इनको और इसलिए मंडे छुट्टी ले ली और मेरे साथ आज पुनीत है राइट Puneet, and so we missed the banking thing yesterday.
Yeah.
NBFC especially. Where do you see that NBFC? What's your take on the NBFC? How is it going?
मेरे हिसाब से so gold loans clearly positive, right? That I don't have any doubts on, because this LTV adjustment or loan to value adjustment, basically it allows gold lenders to do more aggressive lending, given that your loan to value can be up to 85%. So that is the one, according to me, that's quite a positive, because it allows better growth. You might likely see 200-300 basis points of better growth coming in the gold lending space as a result of this. And predominant chunk of loans will be below that 2.5 lakh rupee mark, which is the threshold for this, and therefore that will clearly be a benefit. So that's one. The other piece, according to me, with regard to margins, it's very case specific. So for example, consumer loans, if competition heats up, yields will come down.
When you say consumer loan, is primarily
personal loans for buying refrigerator, television.
So unsecured loans.
Unsecured loans, yes. Yep. So it could be that. It could be what Bajaj Finance does, right? Core consumer loans, right? All of those, if at all there is, if at all there is a lot of competition in that space, you might see yields come down, which could impact margins. So while right now you're building in for a much more rosy margin environment, you could see some downside risk if at all competition heats up substantially.
But all this comes in only once consumption comes into play, right? Means especially unsecured loans and other stuff comes into play only when consumption picks up or discretionary spends picks up.
So I would beg to differ on that.
Why?
See, I feel that if you look at what a Bajaj Finance has done last year in FY25, right? They've guided for maybe 24 to 26% loan growth. They've done that, and they've done that quite comfortably, right? Now next year they're guiding for 23 to 25, roughly 1 or 2% here or there. Does this substantially impact that number? I would not feel so. I think growth will come. I think the only problem, if at all any, will be some bit of competition or cost. That is that if other lenders reduce cost dramatically, then maybe you could see an impact. But we've historically never seen that impact on a Bajaj Finance in terms of yields. But that may not be the case with other players, is all that I'm saying.
When this happened, we were thinking that the top tier private sector banks may benefit in terms of NIMS expansion by a bit.
Yes.
Right? But for the last 2 days, we are seeing HDFC Bank and ICICI Bank under pressure. And today, I think the deposit rates have also been decreased.
No, sir. So I'll explain this slightly differently.
Why is ICICI Bank under pressure for last 2 days?
So one is that starting valuations for ICICI Bank are very high. You're trading at 3 times. So therefore, there's very little room for anything wrong to happen there, or for bandwidth for anything wrong to happen there. But okay, so that's ICICI Bank in particular. I want to leave that out. Let's talk about margins now. The sense is that margins, at least for the next 2 to 3 quarters, will compress. That is a given. Okay. So Q1, Q2, Q3 at the very least. My sense is Q4 as well and Q1 of next year as well.
Compression.
Right? You will see pressure. How much compression may not be much, but there will be pressure at least for the next 2 to 3 quarters, because the CRR cut is yet to happen effective Q4 of this financial year.
And abhi rate
right?
cut hoga
Q4.
September onwards, na?
But sir, full transmission will happen in November. Right? So it's full quarter impact will come only in Q4. चलो ठीक है, चलो Q3, Q4 दे दिया. पर the so at least what I have been reading in terms of notes is there's a 10 basis point tailwind to margins as a result of the CRR rate cut. I mean, 10 basis points is the increase, but you look at the reduction in the rate that has happened, which is around 50 basis points this time around. In case of 50 basis point rate cut, most banks having a large floating rated books will see margin decline. So you will first see margins come down, right? Even if you have reduced your deposit rates, you can reduce it by 25 basis points. And the transmission on the balance FD rates will actually happen next year. And therefore, your margins will compress in the near term. Usme to koi doubt nahi, mere mind mein. Q1, but more than Q1, Q2, you will see the maximum, I think, in terms of quantum of margin compression will be the maximum in Q2. Thereafter, you will see a little bit of unwind in the sense that margins will compress a little bit lesser. Then, of course, it depends. So, for certain banks, the repricing happens 3 months after the repo rate cut. In that case, then those are specific.
Those are
I'm talking about
ना, जो 3 महीने का.
EBLR भी है.
3 महीने के बाद होता है? नहीं, immediately हो जाता है ना transmission?
So, for example, HDFC Limited that I know of earlier.
उसमें 3 महीने के बाद होता है.
उसमें 3 महीने के बाद.
So, HDFC बैंक में EBLR.
MCLR नहीं, EBLR भी उसका 3 महीने बाद होता है. वो बोलता था कि रेपो रेट कट के 3 महीने बाद आपका एडजस्ट होगा रेट.
Okay, HDFC बैंक में भी.
लिमिटेड में. Earlier.
नहीं, HDFC बैंक में?
HDFC बैंक
Immediate
में
है.
HDFC बैंक में it's distributed.
नहीं, because वरना EBLR पे लेगा क्योंकि इतना ही लेट हो रहा है तो basically I mean we get EBLR so that वो immediate transmission हो जाए ना basically.
So generally that is the case that if it's EBLR generally it happens immediate. Then there are some which happen with a lag, 3 months, 6 months.
So in short, you are saying that even though long term or maybe a year down the line maybe is positive. But immediate impact of margins are going to come in the next 2 quarters.
Yes.
And then there will be margin reversal which will happen for the
margin reversal, or there will be some cushion because of CRR. So the quantum of margin decline will get stemmed because of the CRR cut, which will start taking effect.
But essentially Q2 could be the bottom end of the margins, like usse
No. That's not what I'm saying.
So
I'm saying that decline will be the most in Q2 according to me, if the entire margin transmission happens as per EBLR. Okay. Now, if there are some books where 50% is MCLR, then that may well happen later on.
Correct.
I'm just kind of contextualizing. You'll have to look at it bank to bank and NBFC to
And by
NBFC.
then, I think the commentary will start coming in case what are they expecting in second half, right? By the end of Q2, and that will be something to watch out for. So,
and if credit picks up, it's another bonus which is there.
So a lot of these questions will get addressed. I think on the Q1 con call. It's going to be very interesting because
one question which I have on this is because we've seen NBFCs and gold finance companies thoda not re-rate but essentially move, and banks have kind of like अभी तक कुछ हुआ नहीं है. तो अगर
नहीं यार 2-3% हिल गया कल
हिल गया, but there was Kotak and Federal also was up.
I don't know if HDFC was also up by 1% or so.
Access a little bit, but वो basically.
But HDFC was marginally there, but ICICI Bank was down.
Yeah.
Even today
ICICI Bank has been down on Friday and yesterday, sir. So
yes, and today as well.
And today as well. So I think it's a very different story at ICICI. कि भाई already भाग गया है. A lot of this is already built in. That's my feeling.
Yeah. But that will be. But do you think that is the space to look at now? Banks in terms of, because NBFCs and gold finance have run, and within banks, what is your this thing on PSU? Also?
So I think it's selective, both banks as well as NBFCs. It's going to be selective. You will likely want to hear from HDFC. See, I mean, commentary that we are hearing from HDFC, at least in particular, and I'll just give you an example, is that they don't see too much of a margin decline as a result of rate cuts. They've said that very clearly on their Q1 con call, and they knew that rate cuts have started to play out. February, April, दोनों rate cut हो गया है. They've said कि कुछ बड़ा margin decline होगा नहीं. So my guess is you want to play in those pockets where margin decline is the least, and at the same time you're getting loan growth, because that will then impact your EPS and favorably. But most people are penciling in a 10 to 15% growth on EPS, which we are not finding in other sectors.
Yeah.
So that's what you're getting in financials. Then it's a play between value and what you're getting.
Into.
So that's how I would look
So
at
other
it.
thing is the IT, because IT is the only one which is standing out
Yeah.
today,
Yeah.
and for last couple of days. So if you look at last 1 month or last 15 days or so, it's 6-7% which has gone up.
Gone up, yeah.
And I think it's overselling which has happened over the last quarter or so.
Huh.
And with US and China talks coming in, there's some kind of hope that the stability will come in
Yeah.
that sense. So that's one thing. But I think the key thing is June 18th, which is the Fed, which is going to come in.
Yeah.
The Fed rate, which will, I think it's again penciling in a status quo.
Status
but
quo,
though Trump is asking for a rate cut, it's not going to happen easily. And before that, you have the Japan BOJ also looking at
the
rate
rate
where
cuts,
again there is going to be a status quo which is going to be there. But globally looking at, if everything is done in the next 10 days, which is not going to happen, but I think market is pricing in that there could be a reversal happening towards the end of the year, and so that's why it's after a lot of selling that happened in the last 2 quarters, we are seeing IT again coming back, which is there. 2% up today means it's the
The
outcome.
thing is, we're seeing a lot of moves on this, the mid-cap IT first.
Exactly, Coforge and
Coforge
others,
What happened on Coforge today? There was a note, right?
there was a
Yeah.
note, and I think the
have
management
missed-
is guiding for a higher growth rate.
yeah.
Growth
I-
as well.
Have you had a chance to look at it?
So Coforge, I think one is that the management has been very confident of no impact on the business irrespective of the geopolitical conditions. And when they are coming out and saying that, I think that's for Coforge. I think today they've said that we'll do 14% EBIT margins also. They're somewhere around the 12% range. And within IT, you don't see so much margin growth from these companies. It's largely being maintained at, all these
Same
companies
level.
maintaining at the same level, 60-80 basis points upar niche.
And it's talking about
And that they are saying ki we'll have growth in revenue and we'll have EBIT margins and we are okay with this year because we have orders already. So, but valuations of course vary. I think the other thing is someone like Persistent. Now Persistent comes out and says that I'm roughly at, in terms of revenue, I'm at $1.4 billion. I'll be at $2 billion in FY27. I'll be at $5 billion in FY31. Now, itna confidence when someone has in their business and in their growth areas, I feel that they are getting rewarded based on that. But within IT, I think the auto ER&D space is not working. I think it's not working at all, and I think that people have just taken a sideline on. But I think
the main reason being that there is a slowdown which is there in auto. There is a higher tariff which is coming in. This pushing a lot of European car makers or OEMs to put on hold the entire plan. And when they put the entire plan on hold, the ER&D guys goes for a toss because then they may be sitting on, because these companies are working for the new designs and new products, but that product which is supposed to be delivered say 12 months down the line becomes delivered gets pushed to 18 months 24 months or 36 months that way.
I think but a lot of this time is being used by these European automakers to recalibrate what they want to do. So within everyone's looking at software defined vehicles now, like even BMW, Mercedes, all of them are. So they are taking the time and saying, okay, this is the time where sales are not happening, so let's look at. So I think that could be interesting in that aspect. They try and do partnerships now. So where someone like a KPIT, someone like a Tata Tech goes out and says that, okay, we are engaging. Tata Tech already has a partnership with BMW. They have a joint venture for India. And I think valuations are very depressed, but you need some commentary, something to...
But Tata Tech hasn't moved only.
At all.
Since the IPO, it hasn't moved.
The thing is, IPO was 500, listed at 1200, fell to 500, now it's at 750. So I think that April low say it has thoda given that thoda 10%. I think.
But if you're an IPO investor, you still made good money.
So if you sold it at 1300.
No, even at 750, even if you're a holder right now.
No, because it listed at Sida 1300. Now, udhar se to one time.
So I'm not saying that what was that it wasn't valued disproportionately at that time. I'm saying for a passive investor who just bought the IPO, two things that come out. One is they've left good money on the table. So fair game to promoters and bankers both. In these days in IPOs,
तो जिसको कमाना था कमा लिया, लिस्टिंग में कमा लिया. अब जिसने लेके रखा है,
उसका भी ठीक है. उसका भी ठीक ही है.
नहीं उसको थोड़ा सा
जिसने 1100 पे खरीदा है वो तो यार उसका गलती है.
उसको थोड़ा एसिडिटी हुआ होगा तो वो 500 में आया होगा. जिसने जो बैठा है.
1100 वाला नंबर अच्छा नहीं. जिसने टाइमो भी टाटा मोटर्स भी 1100 पे लिया वो भी रो रहा है. टाटा टेक
टफ. Valuations are important. Starting valuations are very important.
The other thing is Rapido's entry into food delivery.
Yep,
which is
biggest story,
interesting.
very big story.
So, Eternal and Swiggy both have a good set of food delivery business. Quick commerce is what is eating up the cash.
Yeah.
Because contribution margins are positive for both of them
Both,
in food delivery. But here, the thing is that they're starting with Bangalore, and Bangalore is a big market for Swiggy.
Yeah.
In that sense, so it's going to eat into it becomes a little bit competitive for them in terms of the pricing, because what Rapido is doing exactly what it did for its ride hailing app basically, right? Means Uber and Ola के लिए जो किया था, they're going to charge a subscription fee from the driver, and there will be a small transaction fee which is there, and so Rapido rates are much lower than other apps.
I use Rapido.
Yeah.
So it's much easier.
You got the approval now, seal of approval.
It's much lower than Uber and Ola. And I think they're following the same thing there, where they're saying that, okay, whatever the MRP rates for a product at the restaurant is what we're going to offer. And we're going to charge a delivery fee of 30, 40 rupees, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And over a period of time, we will move to a subscription fee where the restaurant has to pay a monthly subscription fee, which is there. I think that's the model which is there, and that's going to disrupt the commission structure which is there for both Eternal and for Swiggy. And as a result of which, there could be a pressure on the contribution margin for them. The EBITDA positive जो था वो थोड़ा under pressure रहेगा. अभी के लिए it will be limited because it's only in Bangalore.
Correct.
But point is that...
But I'm sure that they'll add cities like Gurgaon and all very quickly.
But for that, they need to raise a lot of funds, Puneet.
For Rapido, you mean?
Rapido. So Rapido did raise around 2,000 odd crores in last financial year, and this year मिला के 2,000 crore raise किया था.
Yeah.
But I think our estimate is that it's sitting on around 1,500 crores of cash. Which is there, and that cash is not enough for to go rapidly into 10 or
12 cities,
10, 12 cities, which is there. So it's something which is.
But don't you think that because of this, just even if he's able to go in 3 or 4 cities over the next year or so,
20% भी hit करेगा market तो.
Yeah, exactly. Because don't you think that currently, like whatever multiples are there for something like a Zomato, not Swiggy, but for Eternal basically, that will again start to come in question. Like investors, whoever was okay, ठीक है, चलो food delivery business secure. Now they'll be okay, ठीक है, do you want to pay that kind of multiple again, even though the stock hasn't corrected that much from even because of that.
By the way, in Q4, food delivery was almost static for both of them.
Both of them, yeah, exactly, yeah. So what are you paying for essentially now in Zomato, right? That's the question. Because multiples rather will sometimes...
Eternal or...
you disagree.
I don't know how much
you're laughing like that with this thing. Are you an investor or are you disagreeing?
No. I feel multiples are not sustainable.
Yeah, it is. But, the only point is that...
just pulling out that graphic that Agni had put out today morning.
I think, because the biggest point is that it's same rate as this thing. I don't know if how much of it will actually happen. But like right now, that's the biggest problem, right? कि restaurant में rate अलग है और आपके Zomato पे अलग है.
When I called for a soup yesterday,
yeah.
and my wife called from one of the apps. And I told her that, boss, why have you done that? Because you've spent like 150 rupees for nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, you could have just called the restaurant, they would have delivered it. It's just insanely expensive for whatever reason. And that's showing, right? So cost of McChicken, and this is research done by Agnidev, so I want to kind of quickly take you through that. Cost of the McChicken meal is $199 on Swiggy, Zomato and Rapido. Sorry, the cost of the McChicken meal in general is $199. Dish cost on the platform, Swiggy is $315.
Yeah.
Zomato is $315. And Rapido is $199. The delivery cost on a Swiggy is $78. On a Zomato is $35. And on a Rapido is $25. Packaging cost separate. Rapido is $0. $29.29 on Swiggy and Zomato. Platform fees is 12 rupees on Swiggy, 10 rupees on Zomato, and GST is 17 rupees and 13 rupees. Totals 451 on Swiggy, 402 on Zomato, and 234 on Rapido.
Yeah.
That is massive.
Massive, yeah.
That is massive.
Yeah.
Yes.
And a lot of for Zomato and Swiggy does it, they
And-
show
and-
that
and
and they
what
give a discount of $70 or something like that, right?
Fair.
To get that in, but it's
Correct.
still very high.
Correct.
Yes. No, but discount क्या means आप 50% ऊपर करके 20% discount.
Yes,
Correct.
exactly. That
Correct.
is the, so it's tricking you into getting into it. Even so, you see a discount code, you're seeing okay, ठीक है, चलो 100 rupees कम हो गया. Like
That's why I'm
that's
saying
the
that
key, yeah.
the contribution margins which are coming
coming
will
in
get hit because
hit,
the commissions will be hit.
yes.
Yeah.
Especially
I
in
agree.
markets like Bengaluru, which is a
very high.
hyper competitive market.
Yeah.
वहाँ पर अगर ये आता है, so it's going to have a big impact.
Yeah.
Incidentally, Swiggy held around 30% stake in Rapido.
Swiggy held in Rapido.
Held means past tense or present tense?
अभी थोड़ा कम हो गया क्योंकि लास्ट ईयर वेस्ट प्रिंस
अच्छा, वो
dilution
की वजह
हुआ है,
से
correct.
so the last available is 29.5% as of FY24 end.
Okay.
तो FY25 में जो फंड रेज हुआ है उसमें थोड़ा सा डाइल्यूशन
थोड़ा होगा,
Very
yeah.
बट एंड TVS also owns 3.5% by the way.
TVS.
Of Rapido.
अच्छा.
Of Rapido.
Of Rapido. So simple as that.
By the way, we've
And the
done.
Munjal families also own through the family trust.
Has the Disruptors episode on Rapido?
Yeah, it's gone. So
It's gone on
I
air?
think
Okay,
I think
so-
can we
Yeah,
can
yeah.
put the can
Please
we
drop that.
drop that interview of Rapido.
Please drop that.
Yeah.
I have missed that.
And I think we are getting Karan Taurani also on the show for India Market Close
Of Elara Capital.
of Elara Capital, who's going to talk about the disruption and what impact it has on Swiggy and Eternal. You should watch that.
Yeah, I can't wait to speak to him. So maybe
Yeah.
you should listen in.
We have United Spirits and RCB. So माल्या क्या ये माल्या वापस कर रहे हैं? नहीं ना.
Constant, नहीं, I don't.
By the way, they can't. Means BCCI has to approve this.
Approve, yeah.
But it seems that United Spirits or Diageo wants to sell a part stake in it and monetize this stake because currently the franchise after they've won the IPL, 18th IPL.
What a time to sell though, na? This news to come out like
means
after winning the IPL.
It's valued at $2 billion.
Yeah.
Means आप ये लेके चलो कि this in FY24 end they had 650 odd crores of revenue and 221 crores of profits.
Yeah.
FY25 revenues are going to be slightly
So
lower.
sorry. Can you repeat the revenue number? I'm sorry.
650 crores.
अरे यार समझना है यार.
650 crores का रेवेन्यू
650
है
यार.
और 221 crores का प्रॉफिट है FY24 में. FY25
Damn good profit but past losses taxes may not be factored in. I have not looked at the
वो मैंने I just saw the basic numbers
Basic,
which is
yeah.
it's a subsidiary of United Spirits, so please go to the balance sheet of subsidiaries under United Spirits and you will get RCB.
Noted sir, I will do this.
Yeah. For people who want to know कहाँ से नंबर मैं बोल रहा हूँ FY25 के numbers आए नहीं अभी तक but what they have said is that Q4 numbers were slower for FY25 because number of matches they played in January was much lower than last year.
Yeah.
So the revenues would have come down a bit for that. So we are estimating 550 odd crores and 150. FY26 is going to be good year. Bumper year because they're going to get 36 crores of bumper for winning prize. That's going to come in for them. So that's something.
And sir, even sponsors may have linked amounts. So
Linked amount,
say
yeah.
for example, who's the RCB sponsor? I'm sorry, I don't
RCB
know.
RCB तो है.
का, I think.
Royal Challenge.
Yeah, I think.
United Spirits तो है.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest ones is that only.
Yeah, Dream 11 है. कौन
जो
है?
भी है, I mean basically you might get a success fee on the basis of the fact that you've won.
Yeah.
Maybe that's
Yeah, that is also there. But 17,000 odd crores का valuation on a top line of say 600 or 700 crores लेके चलो. So it's how much? It's
बढ़िया है.
मतलब कितना टाइम से revenue आ रहा है भाई?
20 times revenue.
हाँ. But do
25
you watch football matches?
Yeah, I watch
Foot clubs and you track them? What's the kind of multiple they have? Any idea?
No, I don't track.
Manchester or something?
That'll be interesting to see actually as a comparison, na? You're saying.
But अंधाधुन चल रहा है. वो मुझे पता है. Because
they are listed actually.
Because 3 years back when I saw the Manchester United stock and today when I saw it, it's doubled or something.
Yeah.
ये परफॉर्मेंस की बात नहीं कर रहे हम स्टॉक प्राइस की बात
वही मैं बोल रहा हूँ. वही मैं बोल रहा हूँ. परफॉर्मेंस नहीं आ रहा है. स्टॉक प्राइस ऊपर गया है. और अभी उन लोग ने प्लेयर्स का ब्रेकफास्ट भी कट किया. मतलब फाइनेंशियल्स आर इन अ मेस. I'm just looking at all
प्लेयर्स का ब्रेकफास्ट
कट किया है. अरे मजाक नहीं कर रहा. अच्छा प्लेयर्स का नहीं बट स्टाफ का.
अच्छा ठीक है.
Which is big because never has it happened in the last 40 years.
I think only thing which I think the management of or Diageo will be hoping that it's just ki Kohli stays off Twitter and doesn't announce retirement, that is going to create.
No.
वो जाएगा
He announced
valuations
retirement
का.
from Test.
No, not from IPL, na. He's playing IPL.
IPL and 50 one day.
One day, but they'll be hoping that he just stays off. Yeah, IPL से retire ना कर ले क्योंकि हमारा valuation बहुत सारा उस पे big
IPL से retire नहीं।
करिए
2 साल
किसी ने सोचा था कि टेस्ट से पहले जाएगा. I didn't expect him to go from test either. Nobody did. Test was his favorite format, as he says. Nobody.
I don't want to pass controversial statements on cricket, यार. छोड़ो यार अभी.
Finally, mutual fund inflows have been lukewarm.
आ गया?
Yes.
Again,
data.
19,000 crores equity inflows compared to 24,000. Passive funds have fallen drastically from 11 or 12,000 odd crores to 4,000 crores.
Yeah.
And I think total mutual fund inflows ये industry का 29,000 odd crores है. So that's something which is there. Arbitrage is around 11 or 12,000 odd crores if I'm not wrong.
Wow.
So there is some slowdown which is happening in flows,
Hey,
especially.
Karan Taurani has just come out. Sorry.
No, he's going to come.
अच्छा, okay.
So that is there. But let's look at some questions. Piramal Enterprise, what's your take? Do you have anything on Piramal Enterprise? By virtue of acquiring DHFL, they have almost what?
I don't
10,000 crores का tax losses भी तो उनके पास
हाँ है वो सब है वो मुझे पता है. These are common arguments which people make, but I'm sorry, KCI, Mr. KCI, I haven't looked at Piramal very closely, so I don't have a view. एक तो there are like just doing some look at the Excel of the stocks within banking, financial services and insurance. There are 130 companies. Now if I go to track each of them, then it's a challenge.
So I think when I started this, I looked at auto and auto anks. So auto तो it's like 10-12 the major ones. Auto anks को मिला दो 194 हो जाते हैं. And I was like, भाई, let's look at the first 50 for a while. Let's gain थोड़ा expertise in the first 50.
Exactly.
What's your view on Yes Bank post SMFB? Sumitomo.
So I think I've been very vocal.
Yeah.
I think I've been very vocal about my Yes Bank views on this platform at least. So Sumitomo may have their own reasons why they will want a bank in India. What they will look for is maybe a 10-20 year horizon where they really want to create value with something like a Yes Bank. If you want to ride in the same boat, and see when some of these large investors come in, they are happy to pay a premium because they are not going to get a 20% stake in an Indian bank otherwise. Right? They are not going to get it at rock bottom valuation. 20% stake. एक तो RBI का वो the first door is the RBI door to get through. If you get through that door, then you need to have sellers who are willing to sell a 20% stake.
Sellers are willing to sell already.
Yeah, they are willing to sell, but these are exceptions, sir. This is not the norm.
But
and
tell me one thing, the biggest thing which is now worrying is that the kind of fundraising that they want to do. Now they're claiming that it's supposed to be a enabling resolution, right?
Yeah.
What 16,000 crores? कितना था?
7,500 crore equity, 8,500 crore debt.
Debt. So around 16,000. So 7,500 crores of equity which is going to come in.
Yeah.
It's going to further dilute the entire bank.
Correct.
But if they want to grow at 20 plus or 25 plus going forward, they need capital.
Correct.
And Sumitomo is going to come in and buying the secondary shares from the investors and not primary. So
I don't know if they're not going to buy primary or going to buy.
They haven't said
They might buy some part because there is a 6%.
To maintain 20% they may. Right? In
That as well as the other piece is that RBI typically allows 26%. Up to 26%. Now you don't know what conversations are happening behind closed doors. Maybe there's a conversation happening there saying that I want the balance 6 also. I want to own 1/4 of the bank. So
at some point in time, right?
At some point. And maybe this is that way of doing it.
Could be. But if that's going to happen.
Disclosure hasn't yet happened, but
yeah, but is that going to be positive for the shareholders because you're going to see further dilution which is coming in?
No, so that is the problem in Yes Bank, right? That one though it trades at a slightly premium multiple in any case. It's not like it trades at some one time or sub one time multiple. And the second thing is that the growth story is very long and very uncertain. It might take a year for the new owners to just settle in. Thereafter, new leadership might come in. and thereafter the real turnaround may start. Now, between today and 2 years, you don't know how many times the market will fall 10, 15, 20%, and therefore you might well get better prices. That's all that I'm trying to say. Even if you want to play this, and if you're a long-term player in this and you feel that Sumitomo will obviously do a good job, then it's a good time to buy. I mean, so it depends on your outlook.
Yeah.
My outlook clearly is that I would wait and watch and wait for what action does Sumitomo take as new owners, and thereafter what is the new leadership that comes in and what is the strategy thereafter.
Yeah, it's also not that like there are opportunities there in banking, NBFCs, this thing. It's not just key. There's a very scarce opportunity and you have to look at these things, something like that. So I think that is also one thing to consider. I mean, it's
100
not like
plus,
it's not,
100 plus options.
Exactly.
Banking, NBFC,
but
life
the
insurance.
point is that which of them gives you an opportunity in this current market, because many of them have run up so much that we ourselves feel that okay, it's running above the average, book value basically.
There is a scarcity, sir, but at the same time, to then argue that you would want to go and buy a Yes Bank is something that I would definitely say be cautious about it. Really think of the rationale.
If you're buying on the back of that, if the stock will run up, it may not happen. That's what I'm saying.
Yes, because it's already happened. It's already run up now.
Yeah.
So we have one more question.
Sorry, do you have a view on this?
No, my view is only limited to the point that from a company's point of view, I think at this point in time the company is on a very conservative level performing, because you have a person at the helm who's there to stabilize the bank, right? I mean, that was the purpose of getting that person, Prashant Kumar.
Yeah.
Right? He's the CEO. I think he done a very good job with respect to reconstruction and stabilizing the bank. The question is that whether it goes back to that aggressive growth rate.
Yes.
If it goes back to that rate, and if that's the kind of pedal the new management or new promoters are going to want a Yes Bank to do, then I think the valuations are going to go up. Yeah. But knowing Japanese the way they are very conservative in their approach. And you have dealt with more Japanese than I have, but my point is that they are very slow and they are very steady. They want slow and steady kind of progression, and they grow their books around. So from a quality point of view, I think in the next 3 to 5 years, if Sumitomo is going to be there, I think there shouldn't be a worry that there's a change, there's an issue with the quality of the book. That way, I think that should be a good sign. But whether that quality comes along with aggressive growth is something is a question which is there.
Yeah.
When Sumitomo would like to merge its NBFC book as well, right? At some point in time, that's going to happen there. And when it happens, Sumitomo's stake will automatically go up because of the merger which is going to happen. But are they going to go into various other because they are a universal bank? Will they get into various mutual funds or wealth management or anything? That's something which we need to know.
ROA is sub 0.5. Your margins are at 2.5.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to turn a bank like that around.
Yeah, correct.
There's a question for you. Tejas Gambhir has a question for you. Force Motors. The stock has been running up.
I mean, it's a very interesting play because it's like market cap is also not that much. But in terms of performance, I think there are two key things which have happened very good for the company. It's one is that, and 13% in the last month, but you look, the stock's gone up from 7,000 to almost 12,000. Now, majorly for people, there are two segments. One is, of course, where it manufactures these ambulances also and vehicles that it sells to.
And contract.
Then it also makes engines for players like BMW and Mercedes. But I think the new thing which is picked up is what they're doing with these larger vehicles, these passenger carriers essentially. 8 se 10 logo ke liye they make these bigger vehicles. So this one vehicle called Urbania has just picked up very, very strongly. You'll start seeing it everywhere now on the road. It looks also good, but performance-wise, there was never an issue because the company is manufacturing engines for BMW, so khud ke liye bhi wo kar hi rahe. And I think that has started to pick up now. So from roughly about 1,500, 1,600 units a month, they are now doing roughly 2,500 units a month. So on a year-on-year basis, they are growing 25%. So they grew 25% in April, 25% again in May they grew. So that
So is that
expectation
linked
is.
to the kind of public transport changes which are happening in many
Yeah,
cities?
correct.
Like metros coming
Metros
in.
mein hai,
So the
correct,
bade
yes.
buses की जगह पे छोटे
Chote,
छोटे
yeah, and we've seen that in Bombay in these BEST buses also, that smaller ones have come in to counter that, while on the other side there's EVs which is happening. The other thing for Force is they have a lot of cash on the book. 800-900 crore का cash है इस पे. तो when you look at all those factors, that re-rating has now happened a little bit, but going forward also, I think it's a very, very interesting one, because in a time where the auto sector is just trying to get back in terms of growth, it's very good. So market cap is 16,000 crores for the company, I think, and YTD year to date it's up 83% actually. So
it's insane. And
yeah.
we spoke about this.
Yeah. So we did this thing on India Market Close. So it has
bull versus bear.
Have we done a bull versus 13% in 1 month?
And
but you're talking about 83% in last
5 months.
5 months.
Yeah, from Jan 1st this year. And the 800-900 crore cash I think is very important. I think that's what investors also reward.
करेंगे क्या cash का?
वो तो I think they're going to keep it for a while. They are very conservative in their approach, and I think the street is finally rewarding it, to be honest, because nobody looked at the...
But has been there for ages.
Yeah.
They never used to move.
Yeah.
Now I think it's gone into a...
क्या multiple पे trade हो रहा है?
It must.
बहुत नीचे था. अभी पता नहीं.
अभी I'll check what the current this thing is, but...
Bull versus bear कर रहा है इधर. तूने किया है तो अपन कर रहे हैं यार इधर. पता तो चले.
Yeah, we should.
IMC में.
Yeah, let's do it.
नहीं IMC में नहीं, अभी कर. मैं तो बोलता हूँ बता लोगों को कि क्या बुल केस है क्या बेयर केस है.
I'll check the valuation, because that is I think the most important thing, because business and fundamental wise, so there's no problem only in the company at all. But just in terms of valuation, I'll have to check the
30
company's
trailing 12 months.
Yeah, but how do you the one thing which I think about is how do you compare it? Who do you compare it with when you're looking at relative valuation? Because it's also in SUVs. It makes an SUV called Gurkha also, which is competing with the Safaris of the world. It also has this other Urbania part, and there's no direct competition. So there's always been the case, how do you value
2-3 year forward?
Because the valuation also, there's no analyst coverage also on it. So it's not like they are putting that out. And so the interesting part I think will be continuity of this 24% growth. I think that will be something. If that 20% growth continues in this year, which the company thinks they will do, I think then it will be. But yeah, in terms of coverage, because they don't also hold any kind of conference call or anything like that. So it's the annual report that you rely on. So I think once that annual report comes out, I think that would be very interesting to look at in the medium term what the management is feeling.
But what is important to note is the kind of product profile which is now growing at a rate of 20% for them, right?
Yeah. And so last year also the growth was very strong, but it was sort of open each year. Kabhi 10, kabhi 20. This year they've started, 2 ही महीने हुए हैं, but it's been 20%
so
growth.
Is there something changing for them in terms of the
I think the Urbania has hit 1 year. Yes, correct. So Urbania is also, in terms of product, has also matured now. It's been roughly 18 months since that Urbania launched. The Gurkha also launched somewhere around that time. So Gurkha got this thing. So it got some beach mein updates also for the Gurkha, and ambulances and all that commercial side has been doing very well. So I think it's like finally all cylinders have started to fire up, but whoever I've spoken to always just talks very positively about the cash aspect. Ki at least 900 crore ka cash in a market cap of 16,000 crores for the company. I think that is effective very strong.
Yeah, it's been a 9-bagger since April 2023 or May 2023.
Yeah. Because in COVID it was roughly 1,300 rupees. Right now it's almost 13,000.
And when I'm looking at the numbers, let's be honest, okay?
So it's interesting to see who are the shareholders in this. Are there any HNIs or big investors who are part of it? Means if they are not, then they lost out on this in that rally. Simple as that.
That is interesting. I don't see any big HNIs, at least in the
I think Tejas is talking about it. I hope he owns some shares and he's
I don't know. This is just something interesting I found. So FY23, had you bought it in March or April, it was at 12, maybe 1,400 rupees a share. Right? Today it's at 12,000 rupees a share. By the end of FY23, the story was already starting to play out.
Yes.
So your revenue, which was stagnant between 2,500 to 3,200 odd crore for nearly 6-7 years prior to that, shot up to 5,000 crore in FY23, 7,000 crore in FY24, and now at 8,000 crore.
I think
So bulk of the gains have come right now, sir. But the performance had already started to improve at that time. So had you identified it in Q1, Q2, FY23, you would have done very well.
The engine story, which is they're manufacturing for the BMWs of the world, is the one behind this entire thing, right?
It could be, yeah, and I think it's
because the unit numbers are not going up.
Yeah.
But
Sorry, what is this engine story? I don't know what this engine story.
So they make engines for BMW, right?
They do, is it?
Yeah. That is, so it was always that the legacy business was engines. Then they were like, okay, why don't we make this thing ourselves? So then the commercial vehicle part is also very old, but I think it's just the SUV part came in after that. Then the Urbania part came in after that, and it's a kind of a moat because there's nobody there in that space. The commercial vehicle guys don't make that because it's too small for them. But it's just an open space there right now. Ambulances, so yeah, definitely. And I think it's just open there. Nobody's doing it. And this company also has, like, nobody questions the quality of the products essentially, right? So I think that is definitely on. But once that annual report comes out, I think the management discussion is something which I'll be very keen on to read. And we'll put that out also.
9x होने के बाद,
yeah,
तुम्हारा price to earnings will be 30 है.
30 है, yeah. Because at that time it was just because see, there's no ownership from mutual funds or anything. If 60% is owned by promoters, the rest is by public. So it's like retail investors actually catch on to these stories and.
Retail में कोई है बड़ा नाम?
नहीं है sir.
नहीं है ना?
Retail में it's like.
So what happened to the
a lot of
investors who lost out on it? 9 bag.
A lot of it is below 2 lakhs. A lot of people who invest below 2 lakhs, they have.
पुराने वाले पड़े हैं.
पड़े वाले, yeah, I agree.
सब पुराने वाले हैं.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the Aisha story, which is
story,
which is
amazing है.
Yeah.
So we have
PG
very
limited time.
We
have limited time. PG Electro Plus and EPAC durables.
EPAC also.
ये इसका sector. आज
Perfect.
सवाल मेरे लिए आ रहे हैं.
Perfect.
I think EPAC, so definitely it's a very interesting story. Again, like they are an EMS company, largely manufactures air conditioners. But in Q4 specifically, so the one question which I had was that in the first 3 quarters, the company had done EBITDA of 85 crores. And they were guiding for EBITDA of 160 crores for the full year. So when I spoke to him after Q3, I'm like, how are you going to do 1 quarter mein EBITDA, what you've done in the last 3 quarters? Because last year Q1 was very strong. But they said, no, we'll do 160 crores. And they actually did it. They actually did 160 crores in this year. And this year, there was problems of this early onset wala monsoon wala. So it wasn't that the demand was low, inventory low tha. Last year, the inventory bhi low tha. Ki ACs ka inventory nahi tha. So you had to fill up inventory. All these guys got good orders. This year, they've actually managed to win contracts, execute well, show their product prowess, and actually deliver that EBITDA target that they've given. The stock actually hasn't moved post Q4, surprisingly. It was roughly between 370, 380, but if you see, of course, the last 1 year has been very strong. But it's actually that I think a couple of brokerages have started tracking it, noting DAM Capital, ICICI, they all have targets over 600. But what interesting is now, apart from ACs, they've gone into components, and they are going into consumer durables. So they are looking at manufacturing something like an air fryer, going into that space, refrigerator. So it's very, very niche and a very strong product profile. So I think it's like one of those new age EMS is what I call them, like Dixon, Keynes, Amber, everybody knows. But this is this new age. So very interesting. And PG again is, what's interesting about PG is that it gives guidance, it meets. The last 2 years has been specifically very stupendous. They were into TV specifically, that business did well. Now they are guiding for 30% growth in FY26.
And new verticals coming in?
New verticals coming in, consumer business also they've started to look at very well. But I think it's the margin profile is also very strong for the company compared to like, Dixon does only mobiles.
Yeah.
So uske comparison mein the margin is very good for something like a PG. Margins are good for something like an Amber. And I think that's why, but the only one thing is like, there are like 3-4 companies like Amber is giving 30% guidance, PG is giving 30% guidance. I think for EPAC actually, the analysts are penciling in revenue doubling in 2 years basically because new capacity has now come in. So the growth is not a problem at all. It's just the multiple that you decide to give it. I think EPAC is still cheaper than something like an Amber because Amber mein to there is like a lot of growth now that's coming from the new age side. But both companies very interesting in that side because they've come out and said that we are looking to grow and we'll not dilute margins at that time.
Is there a concern on competition?
In a sense, actually, no, because one issue was in the AC side that people like Havels started to put their own plant. So that was the one question which was put to EPAC. What they said was that they are now looking to come out because see, once you put up 1 million capacity, India sells roughly 8 million ACs. That's 80 lakh ACs. Now Havels put up a capacity. They've done that. They won't put up another one. But the growth to hai na, because AC is very underpenetrated. 8% is market penetration. So they are saying ki no, they will come to us because we have the mode for components. Components is very costly, and we've seen that in copper prices. Some compressor India doesn't manufacture, so all of that is imported.
But I think one of the calls who was saying that.
AC
बिक नहीं रहे, compressor की बात कर रहे हैं.
But I think it's like all these guys are saying these companies are now coming out and giving us orders because we have cost competitiveness. So they are not putting in additional capacity. So I think that will also, so no concerns for us, to be honest.
Sure.
Guys, sorry, just one quick clarification actually. Lumax Auto, we had spoken about the numbers since the last couple of weeks. I just want to put it out there that they've come out and they've clarified. Their top line is not going to be at 19,000 crore, it's going to be at 11,000 crore. It's going to grow at a 20% CAGR for the next 6 years. So it will become 3x top line in the next 6 years at 20% CAGR. That's the maths that they've given us. They've said that the way to look at this is 15% will come from organic business. 5% of that kicker will come from inorganic business.
Every year there will be
not every year. They will do 1 to 2 acquisitions, which will aid the top line by around 5%. So the top line growth of 20 is the aspirational growth. Aspirational growth.
It's an aspirational revenue target which they have.
Yes, it's an aspirational revenue target. But I want to contextualize this. If margins go from 14 to 20%, which is their guidance, and they're saying by FY28 only there will be a 200 to 300 basis point expansion in margins. So, and then another 200 to 300 through to FY31. What they are saying is that essentially that 11,000 crore top line, 20% margin, so 2,200 crore in EBITDA, currently trading at 6,700. But that is of course FY31 and with lots of ifs and buts. But I thought let me put it out there because we discussed it and
I think a lot of interesting ones in auto and something like I think somebody had asked us, we were doing it, I think Gabriel Auto. So all these guys have made this this niche in their vertical where they are going, and that is getting rewarded in the market now. Gabriel I think is up almost like 40% in this year itself. So they make suspension for two-wheelers.
Carbon भी बनाते हैं ना, carbon something.
The interior products, I think, they do that. But main business was always suspensions, and that was the vertical. Now they've gone into sunroofs. They partnered with one company globally, and sunroof is an import substitute. Like यहाँ पे sunroofs को बनाता नहीं था. These guys have tied up with a global player. Let's start doing that. So I think these guys, I think a lot of interesting ones there.
I think we have overshot our time.
Yes, we will bring 2 things on KYC, PG Invit, we will try. But Force Motors, I'm super keen to talk to Force Motors.
Yeah, in IMC, I'm quite kicked. In IMC, you should do a bull versus bear for.
Sir, किया है last week किया था.
Yeah.
Last week किया था, कभी किया?
I think किस पे? Force Motors पे. I think we did a link on it, but this thing.
करना चाहिए. Bull versus bear करना चाहिए.
Bear ढूंढा मैं जाके.
चलो भाग गया stock. That's the.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
बच गया यार.